Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the June 13, 2022 Special Civil Service Commission meeting. Mr. Petrosian, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Abkarian?
Here.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Here.
Commissioner McCarley? Commissioner Astorian?
Here.
Chair Hartunian?
Present. If there are no objections, we would like to take things a little bit out of order. I understand our city manager has other commitments, and can we move item number 6 up next?
Item number 6 is class
6 or 7?
specification and job bulletin for approval, police chief.
6 or 7? 6? Oh, I'm looking at a different. Okay. All right.
Yes, Ms. Honainen, please.
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the item before you is the class specification and job bulletin for approval for the position of police chief. As you may know, our police chief has now announced his retirement, which will take place in a couple months. And before the commencement of the recruitment, the city manager has taken the opportunity to review the class specification and make any necessary updates. So the item before you is the revised class specification. Also, since this is an executive level position, the civil service rules require commission approval prior to posting the job bulletin. So the item also includes the job bulletin, which outlines the selection process for the position. It is consistent with the proposed class specification. The selection process includes an internal panel, a community panel, and a professional panel. And pursuant to our civil service rules, the candidates will be required to pass all exam components in order to be placed on the eligible list for this position. City Manager Ruby Gulanian is here to answer any questions you may have. Also, Narek Petrosian from our staff worked on the item, so he too can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Before I open it up for questions and comments, and I'm sure we'll have opportunities to say so again, but I just wanted to extend my congratulations to Chief Pavlidis and our gratitude for his many years of service. Again, I'm sure we'll have other opportunities, but at this point, any questions, comments? Mr. Gulanian is here. Mr. McCarley?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Just one or two questions, and this would be for both the class specification. I want to broadcast this, at least beyond this particular seat. And if we could turn to page 12, I'm not sure, Lonnie, and if you have the same agenda. What I'm looking at are the experience requirements for chief of police.
I apologize. My handout doesn't, the numbering
I
doesn't
can,
match your packet.
Just to expedite things, I'll just read it if that is acceptable to you.
Sure.
The experience requirement is 10 years of experience in contemporary police work, which has afforded progressively responsible experience in a variety of police functions, culminating in a minimum of 2 years of responsible command level authorities. And in our packet, the clause, a minimum of 2 years of, is in red. I assume that that is an addition to a previously drafted outline of the job requirements and specifications. And so with that, what is meant by the term a minimum of 2 years of responsible command level duties in the context of a hierarchical organization such as the police department in this instance?
Very good. First off, good evening, Chair Hartunian, members of the commission, and I appreciate moving up this item. For Mike's sake, I have another public event that I'm already late for. However, Chair McCarley.
I will, please accept my apologies for.
No, not your fault. Double booked as usual. To your, in response to your question, commander level in our organization is captain level and above, which could be deputy chief. In some organizations, they have assistant chief.
So if I interpret this correctly, command level, since we do not have such things as 3-star commanders or 4-star deputy chiefs and 5-star chiefs, as the case may be, any individual who has served in the capacity and position of a captain in a police organization of sorts engaged in contemporary police work would be entitled to apply.
You are correct.
And incorporated in this, but I believe I'm going to be diving too deeply, is a requirement for a post-management certification. And I would assume that there are prerequisites for participation in a post-management class that leads to a certification, but I don't know if we have an expert that could address that.
If I may, Chair. I see that in the desirable qualifications, there is a desirable qualification of graduation from post-command college, FBI National Academy, and/or a master's degree.
Your microphone.
I apologize. I see in the desirable qualifications section a reference to a desirable qualification specifically of a graduation from post-command college, FBI National Academy, and/or a master's degree in a related field. I want my fellow Commissioner McCarley to continue with his inquiry, but it seems to me that, coupled with the education and training section slightly above it, that refers to a bachelor's degree with major coursework in police science, public or business administration, or a related field, and post-management certification, those should be perhaps requirements as opposed to just the desirable one down below at the bottom of our page 12 and item page 3 of 4. But I didn't want to. I wanted to touch upon that post. I don't know if you meant that or some other post qualification.
Speaking from a wee bit of background, there are multi-layers of post courses which result in certifications at a variety of levels of competence. And so there's a basic post.
Commissioner McCarley, can you please come closer to the microphone?
Mic doesn't catch you if you're too far away.
I'm sorry. There we go. Oh, you're so kind. All right, so we have a basic post certificate. We have an advanced post certificate. We have a supervisor's post certificate. And then we have a management certification. And the question for me is, what that might in and of itself both allow for and exclude certain candidates, but I don't know if we have the tech specialist here that can respond, because I'm digging in to the specific requirements of California Peace Officers and Standards Training Commission, and those requirements are very, very strict. So that would be the only question I have as to the impact of incorporating the post-management certificate. It sounds absolutely appropriate for the level of competency that we require here in the city of Glendale.
So what's, I'm not understanding, what is the concern that you have? If you, maybe we can, I want to try to fix it, but I don't
There's
understand.
not necessarily a fix, it's a question of the entry-level requirements for a management certificate. And I have to be cautious here because I don't have the documents in front of me. And that would be whether or not that management certificate is at the level of anything above a sergeant in a municipal police department.
Doesn't say graduate from post-command college,
No,
which,
that's not the same thing.
not the same thing?
No, it's
Okay.
entirely different.
I'm going to
Mr.
ask Ms. Kwan if she can respond.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Chair and Commissioner McCarley. So more specifically, the post-management certificate is limited to those who have been a mid-manager within a police department for a minimum of 2 years. So for the purposes of our organization, in order to test for a position like captain, you have to already have the post-management
That was
certificate.
the presumption, and that's the going-in requirement, so proof of certification. But the management course itself allows for applicants at a lieutenant level across a variety of different police departments. But you're saying that that is something that is mandated here. Fine,
Yes.
thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes, please. I'd like to direct your attention, Mr. Galanian, to the experience portion. When we are speaking about a minimum of 2 years of responsible command level duties, and having heard you describe that as captain level or above, deputy chief or otherwise, it makes me recall my personal knowledge of a lot of departments within the county where police chiefs or applicants for police chief position seem to come from management level to the extent of lieutenant and above. Is there a distinction in the city of Glendale as to that?
Chair Hartunian, Commissioner Gazarian, there is a distinction. We have several number of lieutenants in the organization. At captain level, though, currently we have 2 captains and 1 vacancy with the retirement of Captain Feely, Deputy Chief Feely, so that will make 3. And we also have a civilian commander
Right.
that would be qualified. As to other cities, I'm not sure what the distinction is, and I agree with you. I know of at least one city in LA County that has hired a lieutenant as their new chief.
Yes, that was the one that caught my attention some time ago when that occurred.
Right.
So I'm curious as to the limitation we are placing onto ourselves, whether it's a lieutenant in, hypothetically, the Los Angeles Police Department. I don't know their command hierarchy, but assuming that is the same hierarchy, one with impeccable experience with the post certifications that satisfy Commissioner McCarley's concerns or inquiry, if you will, or others. Why are we shortchanging ourselves if we're going to limit applicants only to captain and above versus, if there is such a thing as above or below,
Correct.
In terms of tapping into the lieutenant pool, whether that's external or internal, that's not the point in this case.
If I could, since you interjected as well, what that does is that not you, sir, but collectively, we've reduced the pool of eligible individuals within our department. So essentially, we've got 2. And so 2 from Glendale with the vast experience accumulated by long service, and then the balance of the applicants would have to be outside of the city. Now, you could say that that's a reflection of the desire to create diversity, not only in all the other attributes that are used to define diversity, but diversity geographically, I presume, to have somebody come down here from San Francisco or some other, or even more distant than that, for instance, Omaha, Nebraska, or a comparable city of 205,000. But we understand that we're now down to 2 within this city by holding at the captain level.
Right, Chair. I apologize, let me interject. Chair Hartunian, members of the commission, we have 2 current captains, but we recently complete the interviews of lieutenants internally that will fill 1 vacant position. So we'll have 3 sworn captains and 1 non-sworn. And in my opinion, and in consultation with our police chief, the way that we have set up the training program, it's really a natural progression from lieutenant to captain and then a chief, as opposed to jumping that one step. So the training that we have provided, it just builds them up to get to that position as opposed to jumping one step.
My final point is just so that there's a frame of reference to my inquiry or my remarks, is that I recall, being a long-time resident of the city of Glendale, that we, at different times, we've had some incredibly capable and qualified lieutenants. I think most of them perhaps are now retired, who would have made excellent police chiefs. And so I was curious as to as you just now illuminated us with the hierarchy of how is it that one progresses from lieutenant to chief.
Right.
And you're saying our system is they go through the captain level first.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Pardon me. Mr. Gulanian, how many lieutenants do we have in the department, and what percentage of them meet that 10-year threshold, experience threshold?
I believe we have 11 lieutenants currently. They may qualify for the 10-year threshold, but they will not qualify for the 2-year at a command level.
Right.
There you go.
I would think all of them would qualify for the 10-year, because if you got to be a lieutenant and you are a lieutenant, that assumes you are an officer, a sergeant, and thereafter. But I also was concerned with the chair's permission, if I may inquire. It's in red ink on my copy under the experience section, a minimum of 2 years of responsible command level duties. So that essentially means that the third captain from the pool of lieutenants who tested, as you just said, really will not qualify for that, to apply for the position of chief, because he or she will have only been a captain for a minute. And that being said, is the minimum of 2 years, in your opinion, sufficient, and why? Because it seems to be a short period of time, 2 years only.
Commissioner Gazarian, I believe personally 2 years is sufficient under the direct direction of the deputy chief and the chief to have built up through the succession planning that we have in place. I think if we had increased that for more years, then it would have probably excluded at least one captain who was qualified and willing and able to apply.
I see.
So we wanted to at least maintain that opportunity for internal captains to be able to apply.
The two that are currently, I'm sorry, the two that are currently eligible, how many years have they been a captain?
Commissioner Kurian, I don't have that information.
It was like,
So I think I heard you say one is
you have somebody
currently-
here.
One is, yes.
Chair, Commissioner Abkarian, a little over 2 years.
Both of them?
They both promoted at the same
At the
time.
same time.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so we can at least look forward to 2 internally applying and perhaps competing for this very important position.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of promotion from within, because it's,
We will get I'm in favor of getting the best possible candidate
that's true.
for the job.
Yes, of course, but if all chips are equal, one who knows the city, who knows the department, will have a leg up versus one who comes in from the outside, although we've had some good folks coming from the outside, but as we know, they're not here now. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Galanian, can I inquire a little bit more about the input from the police chief about the training or anything about this specification, or is that something we need to ask the chief to come back and maybe tell us, because you commented on the training going from lieutenant to captain to the chief, how it best, works based on the training they're receiving in our department to go from in that particular order as opposed to jump from lieutenant to chief.
Yeah, Chair Hartunian, obviously that's your prerogative if you'd like to get additional information from the chief, but he has been intimately involved in updating, because this hasn't been updated, the bulletin for a long time, obviously based on the most modern training techniques and the requirements and the industry that is more familiar with. He has been involved. We have incorporated his comments accordingly.
I have one more question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
I have another one.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
You
no,
go ahead,
I'll
and
ask,
then I'll go ahead and ask mine later.
just a quick one about the comment about the desired qualifications, when it mentions it's been added, FBI National Academy. I don't know much about that academy, but I wonder if there are other national academies, I don't know, CIA National Academy or other national agencies. Is there a reason why we prefer FBI more than maybe other agencies? Looks like my fellow
Again, Chair
commissioners.
Hartunian, I'm not an expert in this field, but I'm fairly certain, as if you read the note below that sentence, an equivalent combination of experience, education, and/or training may substitute for the listed requirements. So if there is a candidate who has a certification from some other national academy,
Okay.
I'm fairly sure that the combination of experience and education and that qualification will be accepted.
That makes sense. Yeah, go ahead.
May I? Let's get back to the FBI National Academy for a moment, please. I'm intimately familiar with that academy. I've lectured there for years. It is a premier national academy. The CIA National Academy, by the way, if there is one, it would have no jurisdiction to train people to serve here. But nevertheless,
Careful what you say, Mr. Kazarian.
Nevertheless, it may have, I said, qualified it, but FBI National Academy, I was concerned in seeing that being in the disjunctive and/or, it would seem to me that there's desirable qualifications, if we're going to list them as desirable qualifications, and then turn around in the next page and say an equivalent combination may substitute for the listed minimum requirements. Well, I don't read the desirable qualifications as minimum requirements. Are they minimum requirements? And if they are, it should be minimum qualifications, not desirable qualifications. And in those minimal qualifications, I believe a graduation from post-command college and FBI National Academy ought to be a requirement. That's based on my having observed just the level of training that goes on at the National Academy. I know that we have sent our department back when I was there, and I'm now dating myself 20 years ago, give or take.
Right.
We had lieutenants going to that National Academy from Glendale Police Department. And those who had attended that academy, they were cut above their colleagues because of the experience derived from that academy. So those are my thoughts. They are not certainly mandates from me. I don't have such a mandate to impose upon you, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Again, please accept my apologies for causing your delay, but this particular position is amongst the 2 or 3 most important positions in this city, so I think we have to take the requisite time. First, a technical question. Once again, you indicated that the civilian commander would be entitled to apply. And I say that,
I hope not.
well,
No, I did not. I apologize for interrupting. I said we have a civilian commander that's at the same level as the sworn captains.
but would be excluded from applying
She will not qualify to apply.
because of the absence of post-certifications.
Exactly.
And the, I just wanted to ask, we should put it out there since we've discussed it. And I would expect that you've kind of gone through the thought process in the development of these revised specifications. Now, if we were to somehow frame a motion, modify this particular job requirement, its associated specifications, and reduce the rank structure to lieutenant, what would be the adverse consequences as you see those consequences to the city and to the department. Now, I caveat that by saying that a department of which most of us are very familiar has had a reputation, whether well-deserved or otherwise, of promoting from lieutenant to deputy chief sheriff, and that's a command jump of multiple numbers of steps. But somebody from a lieutenant found himself as the sheriff of the county of Los Angeles, and multiple lieutenants within the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department have found themselves in positions of commander and deputy assistant sheriff and assistant sheriff. And so that didn't stop the second biggest law enforcement department in this, certainly in California, from moving ahead with that sort of significant jump, or what we call grade plate escalation, between lieutenant to a very senior command position. So to get to the question, you've probably thought about it. What was the thought process that was articulated and ultimately found itself within this document as precluding any lieutenant from participating?
Chair Hartunian, members of the commission, Commissioner McCarley, the thought process was so that a more experienced person at a captain level would best fit the requirements of the very important position of the police chief. Now, in the LA Sheriff's Department, there may be lieutenants who provide command management service to a certain area within the LA County, and if they are not called a captain, we more than likely be open to considering their experience, as long as they have the similar level of experience and responsibility as our captains do.
Chair Hartunian, if I may. And I do remember that you mentioned the fact that out of the lieutenants, they may all qualify, have completed a 10-year tenure. However, you don't know of any lieutenant in the GPD that qualifies for the 2-year command position, correct? All right, thank you.
Well, I suppose it just goes back to what would be the disadvantage to the department if I were to make a motion to modify these class specifications and reduce the requirement, because that constituted my initial going in question: how do you define a command position? What basically come back to me is it's an arbitrary decision that command position means captain and above. You could equally argue that a command position could be lieutenant and above, and certainly you've made reference to the Sheriff's Department, where lieutenants serve in what is deemed a command position. Now, going back to the bigger picture is, what's the downside if you open your application process and we get the 7 lieutenants within this department to file their applications? They might go nowhere, or on the other hand, it might give us, at your particular level, a much broader number of candidates to review, especially during the oral interviews, when we're looking for some of the most innovative candidates. And I would assume that some of those lieutenants have that vivaciousness and understanding of current police requirements that might not be resident in those who have a few more years participating in the department.
Commissioner McCarley, the only downside, the couple of downsides I see, is the number of applications that we will receive internally and externally, and the process, the very lengthy and cumbersome process we have to go through. Notwithstanding, we also will have less experienced persons who will apply and compete with more experienced persons, in our opinion, that are best fit to fill the shoes of the police chief's position.
Worthy response, recognizing when you go across the spectrum of police departments, even in the 125 odd, I can't even keep track of it, number of local police agencies where police chiefs are responsible for no more than 25 officers, and this deputy chief has a command and control span of command and control at 10, and your lieutenants have a command, at least a span of control responsibility, especially in the patrol division, of 30 or more. So when you go 1 or 2, we're making an arbitrary differentiation based upon the use of a word, captain.
Commissioner McCarley, again, I respectfully disagree. I believe, again, that the experience level, not just span of control, the experience level of our captains is at least for a minimum of 2 years. It's what's best for the city, in my opinion. It's best for a city of this size, for the department of that size, to be able to manage it. In my opinion, lower than a captain level with less experience, nothing against them, very well qualified, up-and-comers. I have high hopes for a great number of them. And like I mentioned, we recently completed the interviews for them to move up the ladder, if you would. And this is the part of our succession planning, promoting within. That goes a long way with all the training that we have provided.
No, I really appreciate the forthrightness, because there were a couple of phrases and clauses that you just allowed us to appreciate. That is, promote within, development of leadership. So there's nothing wrong with it. We made a decision conscientiously to be more centric and looking within our department rather than outside the department. And one way of doing that is to look at our captains, who are, without question, individuals with sufficient experience, knowledge, education to satisfy the job requirement.
Besides, they did rise from the lieutenant ranks and so forth. So the fact of the matter that they've had the lieutenant experience in their past experience, that really addresses what my fellow Commissioner McCarley was alluding to.
I just want to follow that line just for a second, just my distinguished fellow commissioner addressed. So you're looking at these captains. We've now decided, maybe you're not going to get a motion from me to open this up to lieutenants because of the persuasiveness of your argument. But we move forward and we will receive a multiple number of applications from captains from departments ranging from 15 people in this county and to the LAPD, which is about 85, depending on how you evaluate resignations, in the Sheriff's Department, which is about 79. So when this heavy burden is placed upon human resources, how is the initial cut made when you have maybe 300 or so applications for what is, quite frankly, a highly regarded city and one of the most competent police departments in Southern California? How is that initial cut made between the captain who controls 5 people and the captain, for instance, in our department, who has at least 100 or so reports to him?
Yeah, Commissioner McCarley, so that if you have not come across it, I have decided to hire an executive recruiter for this position. As much as Ms. Honanian and Ms. Martin have done an outstanding job of managing the 2 executive level recruitment currently in place, and we haven't even closed the application period for those 2 positions. So the first cut is going to be through this executive recruiter with extensive experience in recruiting police chiefs in several cities.
You're using CRS?
We are using Ralph Anderson.
Okay, all right, but recognizing how that works, and I made
Right.
reference to the other one that you use constantly, and that's CRS. So, but what happens is those individuals, that executive recruiting entity, has a set of parameters that are established somewhere. Now, perhaps it's based upon the experience of that organization in conducting interviews of candidates for police chiefs across the country.
Right.
But are you injecting any information or providing any information to allow that entity to make decisions about which one of the 300 applicants at a captain level, from command and control of 5 to command and control of a couple hundred, you allow through to the 2nd and 3rd levels of examination?
Most definitely,
What
Commissioner
are they?
McCarley. Where are they?
What are those little instructions?
Well, it's, when I
Because
say,
there's a memo that went out.
when I
Well,
say,
hold on.
But it's beyond the scope of this.
I think we want to be very careful
Yeah.
in not crossing a line where our authority of approving I'm sorry, Ms. McCarty, I didn't mean to cut you off in any way, shape, or form, and I apologize. I don't, you know how much respect I have for you. I just don't want us to go to a place where we're crossing over our authority to approve a job bulletin and then go into what information did the city manager gave to a recruiting company to recruit. So I just don't want us to cross that line. So I think if we stay in the four corners of what our authority is, then I just don't want us to go into.
Mr. Abkarian, please understand, I'm not going to engage in any confidential analysis of confidential information that's going across. But once again, this is first, and I truly appreciate the fact that now on the table, we've got an executive search committee for this job. And so what that means is the 300 applicants are going to first face some, so to speak, nameless individual at an entity, I think it's headquartered in San Mateo, I can't remember, that makes this initial decision. And there's some criteria over and above this that exists with the executive search committee. Now, what I do take into serious consideration, out of huge admiration and respect for my fellow Commissioner Abkarian, is whether or not in a continued source of questioning, I'm going to reveal those little individual nuggets of information that might either prejudice one candidate or give another candidate an edge in this analysis, and that I do not want to do. So I suppose the only question that would be worthy is, has there been a set of criteria that have been provided to the executive search agent?
yes, Commissioner McCarley, there has been a set of criteria shared with Recruiter, and there will be even more as we move into the collection of the applications. It will be a joint effort to review every single one of application to make sure that we have the best candidate for this position.
So it's going to be a collaborative effort. You're not handing
Yes,
it
sir.
over to some nameless agency who doesn't know anything about our city to make the decisions in the.
Right, that gives me a little bit of comfort.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that's what.
really
I think
appreciate that
that's what,
statement.
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley is trying to address, to make sure that it's an ongoing process, which makes sense. We want the neutrality, but we also don't want somebody who has no idea about our city making the decision.
I reassure you,
So,
I'll stay fully engaged.
It will be some sort of a criteria to begin with, but then it'll be an ongoing.
You recognize, Mr. Galena, this is in no way an effort to impede this particular process, but there are a lot of people that are looking at this position more so than perhaps any other position outside of your own.
I
In
understand.
terms of visibility. And again, this is the third time I'm saying this to you. Please accept my apology for the delay, but we would be derelict in our duties if we did not at least come forward with the questions. We might not do anything because of the acceptance of your very persuasive presentation and explanation and the summation made by our chair to the ground rules for the development of an approved list of candidates. And that is this is a collaborative process between the city and the entity up in San Mateo, which gives me a whole heck of a lot more confidence than if you had said to me, no, the whole split's going to be done down in San Mateo, and San Mateo is going to cut the 300-person list down to 10 on a set of arbitrary criteria. But thank you for that process. Once again, admiration is extended to you for that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate all the
So,
comments.
so then we can all sleep well tonight because there is no risk of dereliction on our part, right?
Because we've asked the
Absolutely.
questions, that's
We've asked
exactly
the
right.
Absolutely.
questions.
Looks like we have more questions coming, though.
Thank you. I have two questions, and perhaps you can answer them with a yes or no, because they kind of call for that, unless you further need to explain. I'll take you back to the experience portion. In the experience portion, when, aside from the 10 years of experience in contemporary police work, when you get to culminating in a minimum of 2 years of responsible command level duties, is it my understanding that the command level duties do not correlate to the duties within the Glendale Police Department's lieutenant's specifications. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. The next one is the desirable qualifications, and I reread that sentence carefully. Graduation from post-command college, comma, so that, FBI National Academy, comma, or that, and / or a master's degree in a related field. So, is it then true that a candidate may be a graduate from a post-command college or FBI National Academy, or neither, but still possess a master's degree in a related field, or not possess a master's degree in a related field and have FBI National Academy or the post-command college, and that applicant would be qualified based on the desirable qualification component of this specification?
That is also correct, Commissioner Kazarian.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Do we have any more questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galania.
Yes.
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 Yes. What's next?
To the meeting of May 11.
So moved.
Second.
Next item, please. Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item, please.
Oral communication, we have none.
Thank you. What's next?
Recruitment and examination.
Ms. Anaya?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this item before you is the recruitment and examination status report. It identifies the various recruitment processes that we have currently pending. It also identifies all the staff that are assigned to the respective recruitments and the various stages of each process. This is a note and file item, but staff is here to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions?
No.
What's next?
Eligible list established.
Ms. Anaya?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the item before you now is the eligible list established reports. We have two, one dated May 11 and one dated June 8th. As you recall, during our last meeting, we postponed this item, and in order to give you a complete report, we have provided the eligible list established for both May and June.
Any questions?
I just have one comment. When it gets to be this small, I did an eye surgery and I could really see, but when it gets that small, could we just go this way? A little bit bigger fonts, because I really couldn't see. I had to get like my telephone to actually see, and I haven't done that since I've gotten my eye surgery. So if you can just make it a little bit bigger so we can actually see it. Because I print them and I look at the print copy, not the computer copy, and when I do that, then I can't really see anything. Just a comment, if you don't mind.
Is that an actual motion, Mr. Chairman?
It's not a motion, it's just a recommendation for people who are getting old like me.
No, I can relate. What's next?
Class specification for approval, park planner.
That's number 7. Ms.
Yes.
Anaya?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, so we have 3 newly established class specifications. Each one will be taken individually. The first one is Park Planner for the Community Services and Parks Department. In the past, or currently, the Community Services and Parks Department utilizes project managers who work within the Public Works Department to assist with landscape, parks, and trails. At this time, the department is requesting to establish this new classification so that this individual may basically incorporating these job functions for these into this classification. Coco Panosian, the Deputy Director of Community Services and Parks, is here to answer any questions you may have, as is Anait Navarro from our staff who worked on this item.
Thank you. Any questions? I have a quick question. These new specifications, because I have a little bit of familiarity with this area. but just in general, these new specifications, are those developed due to a certain event, or is it a development of just over time, we realized that we need this new specification, whether it's this or the other couple of ones that we're gonna discuss?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Hartunian, members of the commission. The new class specification came about when our current park manager, who was, as Ms. Hunanian said, is a member of the capital projects team at the Public Works Department under Facilities Maintenance Division. There are project managers that oversee all types of projects within the department, as well as one was on loan to our department, helping us with the design processes. We've been contemplating how to go about with that particular position. Given the retirement recently of the individual, create an opportunity for us to create a position that focuses more on the planning aspects of things, which is under our department's wing. So our department focuses on the design development of all park projects, hence the concept of park planner, very specific to parks, the landscape architecture, a little different than the engineering aspect of the capital project managers. So we want to focus our efforts on the park planning. And after the design and the development of the documents, construction documents are done, we work closely with Public Works. We will pass it on to Public Works project managers to actually see the construction phase of the project. And in putting the specs together, I worked with Ms. Navarro, looked at some other agencies. There are some of the requirements very similar to the project manager, because some of the duties do overlap, yet a very specific recruitment we want to do for a planner to help us with the design process of all of our projects.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I better ask. Don't you job shop the park planning out to consultants, at least at the outset, at point of time we call concept development for a park? So I see a variety of consultants who parade before your Parks and Recreation Commission with all manner of PowerPoint slides, including what we call the new aerial park above the Verdugo Wash. And that was the product, certainly from the development, the brainchild, I think, of one of our council members. And then it found its way to your department. Then the next step was that your department hired for $500,000, I believe, a design and development consultation agreement that came forth with the park structure. I am correct, am I not?
Yes, Commissioner McCarley, in numerous projects that we have, we do hire the services of a consultant to help with the overall design. The consultant will be the one doing the specification, the design cost of the master planning, and this particular individual that we're looking to hire will be the staff from the department, from the city's side, to walk through the entire process. They will be the one designing the RFP, reviewing the plan, the specification that gets submitted, make sure coordinate along with the rest of the parks team as well as the public works team, getting feedback whether, for example, the layout of the landscape, the irrigation, all that is within the guidelines specification that we have in play. And there are also times while we hire consultants, most cases, there are times when we have small scale projects that the planner or the project manager will just design and get the work going. So you are correct. A lot of the larger projects, we do get consultants on board because the consultant will bring on board the engineers and other subcontractors they need for the electrical plumbing to design the actual project itself.
And I just have to continue because we're trying to indicate to the public that we have a real basis for why we're sitting up here and asking those hard questions amongst all five of us. So the status quo presently has been that you have borrowed talent from the planning department.
The public works.
Yeah, public works
facilities
and
maintenance,
planning,
yes, the
right.
project manager.
So if we were to make some sort of decision, and we don't make the financial decisions, the budget decisions about enlarging or decreasing the size of your particular department. But if you're looking at the current state of affairs, has the current state of affairs with a borrowed planner been disadvantageous to your department? Meaning, were you so struggling that this precluded you from taking on any other responsibilities within the Parks Department? Without this new job that you are now proposing that we move forward, and hopefully it gets funded, and we go out, and 3 or 4 months from now, we have a hiring action, and we bring somebody on board, and then the part of me that says, how can we save money? What, once again, was the disadvantage to your department? Why this has become so critical? I guess the other side of the coin is, why can't we just maintain the status quo and keep borrowing and super utilizing somebody over in planning?
Yeah, Commissioner McCarthy, that's a very good question. From the perspective of the fiscal, do we save more money by keeping the project manager from Public Works on board? Now, I can't speak to the project management team of Public Works. I can tell you they've lost 2 project managers, and the position being placed under the Department Facilities Maintenance Division of Public Works, they do need those positions to see the project management, construction aspect of all project management moving forward. With the lack of project managers, or the numbers that are within the department, most projects tend to sit and wait until there is an assignment that be done. So having those project managers back under Public Works, construction aspect of those projects will move forward, but at the same time, we won't be disabled by not having an individual that is managing the design function. So design comes before construction. By having individuals that work on the construction and other individuals working on the design, projects move forward, and it's fiscally, it's actually a lot more responsible, because the longer it takes for a project to be constructed, costs go a lot higher every year. So this way, the planners and the project managers get charged to the projects. If you look at all capital projects, will have a soft cost aspect to it, and that's where they get charged from. And those projects are funded at times through your general fund CIP, at times through grants, development impact fees, and other funding sources.
Hasn't the position already been funded by council? Or will likely be?
Yes.
Well, then
That's
that's a conscientious legislative decision by those who have appointed us. So with that, your presentation is consistent with what our leadership has indicated is of great value to the city.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? How was a budget approved for a position before a Civil Service Commission even approved the job itself? Is that normal? I'm not questioning, I'm just questioning the process, not the reason that it was funded.
Members of the commission, it probably makes sense to do it in that order, because you could put together a bulletin that never gets funded. What would be the point?
And that's why we have Ms. Arpetian sitting here. Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call?
Thank you.
Commissioner Karian?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, Network Engineer 2.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, attached for your approval is another newly established class specification, which would better capture the job duties of this position. That is responsible for network installation and cybersecurity, as well as other related duties. Once again, Anaid Navarro from our staff worked on this item, and Jason Miller, the Assistant Chief Information Officer, is here to answer any questions you may have.
Sure. Any questions?
Need to secure our network.
Yeah, I
Move
like,
to approve.
I like the cybersecurity part
Second.
especially. Roll call? Looks like, yeah, we have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Karian?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, Exhibition Coordinator.
Mr. Mannion, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is the final class specification for your approval for tonight. It's another newly established one to better capture the job duties of the position. The Library Arts and Culture Department holds various exhibitions throughout the year, and this person will be, or this position will be responsible for coordinating all the aspects of the exhibitions. Once again, Anaid Navarro from our staff has worked on this item, and we have Nicole Passini, the Assistant Director of Library Arts and Culture, and Kaylee Cannon, Senior Library Arts and Culture Supervisor. They're all here to answer any questions that you may have about this item.
Any questions?
Just simply, who's doing, if I could,
Recruitment?
yeah, who is in fact performing this function now? Because we've had exhibitions, quite fine and elaborate exhibitions to this date. Now we are creating a new position to satisfy, it's not a new requirement, it's an existing requirement, but you've essentially created a position that's exclusive for these particular requirements.
Yeah.
Recognizing, I don't want to prejudice you one way or another, but there's another thought process that says, could you take what could be whether a junior librarian or more specifically, one of your perhaps collection advisors or to do this same work. It's more of an OJT type of job, any on-the-job training. I assume that there is an urgent necessity on the part of the library to develop this position. Big question is why, and why now?
Certainly. Chair Hartunian, Commissioner McCarley, the Civil Service Commission. Currently, the role is being filled by a city resource specialist, so a part-time position within just kind of the generic job listing. So there's an opportunity, I think, to make it a specific unto itself position. I would say that with the move from City Council, which will hopefully pass make a position full-time, we wanted to define the job duties more clearly. The reason that we won't be using a librarian is just it's a very different skill set. We have an art librarian at the Brand Library. It's a special arts and music library. But their scope of work is very different. It's much more focused on collections, our materials collections, books, etc., as well as customer service, providing programming. The exhibition coordinator is really focused on putting together gallery shows, exhibitions. They need to know a lot of best practices around art handling, around how to curate a show and put things together. In the past, prior to employing the city resource specialist, we did use librarians to manage the gallery space, and it was not ideal.
Once again, I say if the council moves forward, council is leadership, and council allocates budget for this particular position, all we can do is tinker with the specifications, but it is the council to whom we defer.
Commissioner Perry?
I just have one comment. I usually like to exhibition coordinator if there was only 2 or 3 in a year. Then the rest of the time, the exhibition coordinator, I know where Mr. McCarley is going, might not have something to do. So I personally would feel more comfortable if you put exhibition coordinator / city resource specialist this way or something else, where if there's no exhibition, this person wouldn't say, I have nothing to do, but I'm getting paid, so I'll just sit back and do nothing and until another exhibit comes in. So I would rather the title be exhibition coordinator / something else. And Ms. Mananian is going to tell me why that wasn't the case.
I mean, if I may, I think, just from my experience having coordinated some other events and coming from a family of artists, and my sister having coordinated some exhibitions, coordination, I think, takes more than just a one day. It takes
No, I understand. That I understand.
Process, and I imagine, I don't know how many exhibitions we have throughout the year, and if you have, I don't know, 6, 8 exhibitions, it would take the months leading up to those exhibitions to do the planning and coordination. But I hear your point, and yeah, I would defer to Ms.
If I
Please.
may, Chair Hartunian, members of the commission, Chair Abkarian, essentially the city resource specialist classification is an hourly classification. So we would not be able to incorporate it into this title. Also, the title of exhibition coordinator, if my understanding is correct, has already been approved.
By the council?
Yes, through the cost and did it go through the cost and compensation resolution already? Has it gone through? It's included. So it would take another cost and compensation resolution to make that change.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can speak to Commissioner Abkarian's larger concern that this person won't have enough to do, and nobody in library arts and culture isn't working at their
No.
max
I
capacity.
didn't mean it that way,
Oh,
but
yeah, of
usually
course, of
when you
course.
give a title, it just kind of limits what
Yeah,
they can do.
absolutely.
It does.
We have, in addition to the Brand Gallery, which has about six shows a year, we also have Reflect Space Gallery at the Central Library, which has about 6 shows a year, and we have the Adams Square Mini Park Gas Station, which has 10 to 12. I mean, it varies how long things will be in there. In addition, we have our Arts and Culture Commission is managed by a principal administrator. She's really running the majority of the arts and culture work that we do within the city, and it's a large and growing area, and so any additional capacity that this person has would go to supporting, I think, commission work and other opportunities within arts and culture.
Right, Mr. Chair, if I may. So then the coordinator really is going to be responsible for about 25 or so, and perhaps more, exhibits
We see
throughout the year.
Yeah, we see most likely that this person will focus on brand and the Adams Square Mini Park gas station, but obviously having a full-time person is going to change how the workload is managed, so.
Just to go back, the resource coordinator that you use is on your wiring diagram, meaning that person is responsive to your supervisors within the library department.
Yes.
Now, just offhandedly, and since you've indicated the council's approved it, there's not a whole lot that we would be allowed to do, and out of respect for the decisions made at that level. But by the same token, you, as one of the most senior members of the department, in some senses, when we address such things as retaining such a title as library resource officer, it gives the supervisors, especially at the highest levels of the department, an opportunity to use that individual for a variety of different things. It could be that that individual continues based upon what has now been described as a very significant commitment of his or her time toward the development of exhibitions. But if there are additional functions not even yet articulated based upon the changing conditions in this city and within the library, the ability, what I call it fungibility, meaning the ability to take one person who has a significant amount of experience, perhaps generalized experience, but in the instance that you have described, this person has been highly successful putting on what I deem as some magnificent exhibitions, and all because of your leadership within that department. You know, it's sort of self-limiting the moment that you develop these very specific and tightly wound specifications. It's good for the moment, but it isn't when there's a point of criticality within the library department and you're short-staffed by reason of, let's say, a layoff, when we pray that such a layoff, we don't face the layoffs as we faced them in 2009 and 2010, but experience suggests to us that that might happen. So you stovepiped an individual into a position. You can't, by reason of civil service regulations, force that person to work outside of the class specification. So I'm just suggesting to department heads within the city that the development of these tightly wound specifications is both a boon and a bane, and there are some significant downsides. So that's my commentary and perhaps a statement that I would address across the board to city management.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarthy.
If I could respond just briefly, Commissioner McCarley, I think I absolutely understand the challenges that you're talking about, and in library arts and culture, we certainly make use of, we've got librarians who do a variety of different things,
Yes.
right? So that's certainly our practice overall. The challenge here is the specificity of the work and the requirements that we need. I would say, though, that I could see this person, if as things change within what Arts and Culture Commission is asking of the department, and the projects that are coming out of there, I could see that the skills that we're requiring here and and the scope of responsibilities, that those kinds of things, such as there's a storefront art program right now, like an exhibition coordinator could take that on if we needed them to, if it was the right, time, et cetera. So I can see the opportunity for some flexibility within there, but your comments are well taken. Thank you.
Thank you as well, and thank you to everyone behind this. I certainly
I'll move the item.
appreciate more attention given to arts and culture,
Thank you.
which is rare these days. So thank you.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Karian?
Yes.
Commissioner Kazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Thank you. Next item?
Request to cancel eligible list, customer service utility representative.
Ms. Onania?
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, approximately 2 years ago, we recruited for the position of customer service utility representative within our Glendale and Water Power Department, which yielded an eligible list of actually 23 candidates. Of the 23, 8 were hired, 6 were unresponsive, and 9 remain active. Of the 9, 2 were not selected pursuant to our Rule of 3 provisions under the Civil Service Rules. At this time, the department believes it's in the best interest of the organization to start a new recruitment process, since we're almost at the 2-year mark. And also, just recently, we increased the typing requirement from 20 to 30 words per minute net. Therefore, the department believes that a new list will be better for the department.
Move to approve.
I just have one question before, if you don't mind, Commissioner McCarley. On the 9 active remaining, were they given notice that this was going to be canceled today?
So, Commissioner Abgarian,
Somebody's going yes.
Commissioner Abgarian, not the 9, but Commission had given us the direction to notify the top 3, so the next 3 who would be in line, as well as any promotional candidates. We did not have any promotional candidates on the list. So this was an open and promotional recruitment process. Everybody on the promotional list was considered. This is simply an open list because, as you know, a promotional list cannot be canceled under our rules.
Okay, so was the answer,
Yes, the top 3.
top 3 were given notice that today this is going to be canceled, and were given an opportunity to come and test?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, and that the notification was sent on June 6th.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Well, you got one from me, but it was
Second.
premature before distinguished Commissioner Abkarian.
Roll call?
Commissioner Karian?
Yes.
Commissioner Kazarian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian?
Yes.
Chair Hartunian?
Yes. Next item?
Reports?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is our job performance evaluation report, identifying the departments that we only have a handful of departments that have some past due notices as noted on the report, but the majority of the departments do not have any past due.
Okay, any comments, questions? Okay, hearing none. What's next?
Civil Service Commission, staff comments?
Any comments? I have a quick comment about the reports. My understanding is that we've been waiting for a number of reports about the recruitment process, the evaluation, and dealing with the management, and my understanding is that they're almost done, and we should expect to get them,
Soon, very soon.
hopefully
Yes,
that
and
means the
Ms.
next meeting.
Yes, and Ms.
when
Martin
Ms.
wanted to be here.
Martin will be present, and we can,
That is correct. Thank you, Chair Hartunian.
yeah, with that,
And one more thing, some kind of a, by next meeting, some kind of a idea as to when we will get the revision of the
yeah.
rules and regulation, just a date saying we believe on the 3rd meeting in August, or first meeting in August, we'll have that done. So just an idea by next meeting, if possible, please.
I just wanted to add that I did hear from Ms. Martin that she was in the final stages, but she did want to be here in the various reports that you have that are pending. In fact, she was prepared to move forward with at least one of them at the last meeting, but because of our timing, I think we had a very short time frame at the last meeting. With the chair's consent, it was moved to the next meeting, and she wasn't here, so.
thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
Right.